Hi, and welcome to this video from OnlineMathAcademy.com, where we offer private online math tutoring and exam prep. Today's question is an algebra question, and it says, find the equation of a line which passes through the points -2, 3 and 4, -3. Find the x and y intercepts, then plot the line on an xy coordinate system. Okay, so this is one of those base problems in algebra that students necessarily need to know and need to know well. So let's take a look at it. Well, the first thing you need to know to solve this problem is the general equation for a line. The general equation for a line is y equals mx plus b. And here m is the slope of the line, which is the rise over the run, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and b is the y-intercept. The x and the y are input and output variables respectively. So if one is to find an equation for a line, it's only necessary to find values for m and b. That's why I normally write the equation of a line like this for my students. Capital M times x plus capital B. The capital letters let the students know that that's where we need explicit real number values. Why don't we need values for x and y at the end of the day? Well, once we find values for m and b, we can plug in a value for x and get a corresponding value for y. We could even plug in a value for y and get the corresponding value of x. Now these corresponding x and y values are relatable because they are the points on the line. So all the xy points, such that you let x be x and y be y and you put it into your equation at the end of the day, it's going to satisfy the equation. So any x and y pair that satisfy the equation are x and y points on the line. And any x and y points on the line are x and y points that satisfy the equation. So that's important to know as we go through this process. So here we are, we're trying to find an equation for a line, and we know our general equation is y equals m, capital M because we need a value there, x plus b, capital B because we need a value there. So our job right now is to find values for m and b. Well, what do we know? All we know is that this line passes through 2 points. Call this point x1, comma, y1, and call this point x2, comma, y2. Then we can get the slope of the line. Now, if you need to understand what slope is, just look at this. That's a bad vertical line, but suppose we had a coordinate system like this, and we had this line right here. And we had this point which was x1, comma, y1, and we had this other point up here. It could be anywhere, called x2, comma, y2. And the rise over the run is essentially this. I'm asking what's the vertical distance, what's the rise you have to go up and then go over. Oh, I made it a little bit too high, there you go. So this is the rise, and this is the run. And what is the rise? Well, it's essentially this y2 minus the y1. That's what this is, y2 minus y1, because y2 is right here, and y1 is right about here, and if we want to know this distance in between, it's just the difference of them. Similarly with the run, this is x1 right here, and down here is x2. So if we want to know this distance, we can just subtract x2 from x1. So this is x2 minus x1. Okay, so that's generally what slope is. So how do we find the slope for this? Well, we've already labeled one of the points x1, y1, and we've labeled the other point x2, y2. And we could have flipped it. So we could have named this guy -2, 3 x2, y2, and 4, -3 x1, y1. It doesn't matter what you label what, just as long as the two coordinates are both the same. For instance, -2, 3, 1 and 1. 4, -3, 2 and 2. You don't flip the subscripts there. Okay, so we're going to go with how we labeled them, and if we're finding the slope, which is m, we're doing this. M equals y2 minus y1, so y2 is negative 3, y1 is 3, over x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is negative 2. Now, negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. 4 minus negative 2 is the same as 4 plus 2, right? And I teach my students the trick that if you see this right here, you can just draw the plus sign right in by connecting those two minus signs. Okay, so it's 4 plus 2, which is 6. So the slope of this line is negative 1. Because y2 minus y1, negative 3 minus 3, is negative 6. And x2 minus x1, 4 minus negative 2, is 6. So negative 6 over 6 gives us negative 1. Okay, so now we can rewrite our current equation for the line as y equals negative 1 times x plus b. And we can simply write that as y equals negative x plus b. Okay, so now we're here, and we're not done yet because we don't have a value for b. And the only information we had was that the equation we want the equation of this line that passes through these 2 points, negative 2 comma 3 and 4 comma negative 3. That's all we have. So how are we going to find b? Well, it's important to recognize that each of these points, like I said before, if they're on the line, then those x and y points satisfy the equation that we're trying to write up. So we can choose either one of them and temporarily substitute them in for x and y, because we know that at the end of the day, when we actually have our explicit equation y equals something times x plus something, y equals mx plus b, we know that those x and y's are going to satisfy the equation. So we can temporarily sub them in and find out what b is. So you could use either one of the points I have little pink arrows pointing to. I'm going to choose negative 2 comma 3. And I'm going to temporarily sub that in for x and y. So it's going to be 3 equals negative, and then x is negative 2 plus b. Okay, so let's simplify that a little bit. So 3 equals negative times negative 2 is positive 2 plus b. So we subtract 2 from both sides, and we get that b is equal to 1. B is equal to 1. And watch, we could have done the same thing if we plugged in the other points too. So I want to demonstrate that. So 4 equals negative 3. I'm sorry, not 4. 4 is the x point. We want the y point. We're working with this guy now. And we're going to say negative 3, which is y, equals negative 4 plus b. So that's negative 3 equals negative 4 plus b. So let's add 4 to both sides. And we get 1 equals b. And notice that that b is the same as the b we had before. Let's not forget this m. Okay. So now our equation for the line is y equals, and what do we have for big M? We had negative 1, and we just wrote negative x plus b, which is 1. So this is our equation for the line. Hooray. Now our goal is to find the x and y intercepts. So what are the x and y intercepts? So the x-intercept is the value of x when y equals 0. And the y-intercept is the value of y when x equals 0. And this is where the line crosses the x and y axes. So, we actually know that b is our y-intercept, right? So we know our y-intercept is going to be 1, but let me just show you that when we take our equation, and this is for y now, and we let x equal 0, because we're trying to find the y-intercept, so we let x equal 0, we get y equals -0 plus 1, which is 1. But we knew that because that's what b was. So we know the y-intercept is 1. Now how do we find the x-intercept? Well, we let y equal 0. So we have 0, and again we're using this equation, 0 equals -x plus 1. So to solve this most easily, let's add x to both sides. And we get that x equals 1. So our x-intercept is 1, our y-intercept is also 1 in this case. So now let's plot our line on a coordinate system. So suppose we had some coordinate system right here, and this is a x and y coordinate system, and we want to plot the intercepts. So suppose this is the point 0, 1. Well, that's the y-intercept, right? Because when x is 0, y is 1. So 0, 1. And we're going to plot the x-intercept now. When y is 0 and x is 1, that's the point 1, 0. And now, all of you guys, 2 points makes a line. So we can just draw this line. I'll do the best I can. We can draw that line there. And there we have it. There's our line. Here's our equation that we found. And the way we did it was we said, okay, we want to plot an equation for a line. And we have these 2 points. Those 2 points enable us to find the slope. And we do that by subtracting the y's from each other and then subtracting the x's from each other. And we come up with -1. So then I plug -1 in for m here. And this is what we had at that point. And we still needed to find b. And we said, oh, well, we don't have the y-intercept. We don't have anything else except that this line goes through 2 points. And now we found the slope is -1. Well, that wasn't a problem because we know that if these 2 points are on the line, they certainly satisfy the equation for the line we're trying to write. So we temporarily substituted them in. We picked first this one, and we substituted x equals -2 and y equals 3, and we found that b was 1. I also showed you that you could have picked this one, and we substituted x equals 4 and y equals -3, and we solved this equation for b, and we got the same thing, 1. That is what we expected to get. So then our equation for our line in this form, y equals big M times x plus big B, where we needed to find values for m and b, which we just showed, we have right here, y equals -1 times x plus b, which is 1. Then we went on to find the x and y intercepts, and we were told that these intercepts are precisely where the line crosses the x and y axes, and we found them both to be 1 actually. So we plotted those 2 points, 0, 1, that's the y-intercept, and 1, 0, that's the x-intercept, and we connected the 2 lines and made a line that continues forever. And we completed the problem. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something. Please visit onlinemathacademy.com if you need any help in your math, high school, college, SAT, ACT, GRE, GMAT. I can definitely help you out. All the tutoring takes place in an online collaborative classroom. There's no traveling needed, only a broadband internet connection. And the best part about the service is the whole lesson is recorded. So everything I write, everything we say back and forth, it's all recorded. We can even do video if you'd like. But it's all recorded, and then a half an hour after the lesson is finished, after the live lesson's finished, the video is posted online, and you as a student can access and watch that video as much as you want. You can stream it, when you're doing your homework or when you're studying for your test, any of those kind of situations. Or you could download it, actually. You can download it so the video is on your computer and you wouldn't even need to stream it from the internet. So it's a great service, and I'm Michael. I hope you like this video, and have a great day.